I thought I'd start with this slide because that is the wonderful place. That is the oceans, and we should do as much as we can to try to protect these wonderful things called our oceans. Some change tools. So when I'd finished driving SAS for 10 years, these were some of the things that when I look back, I thought, well, how did we do it? And we had our aim, our problems, our solutions. So I'll just run through these as change tools. And the first one is that always here in our hearts and in our heads, we had our aim. And our aim was to be able to enjoy the wonderful marine environment, the great thing that it is, the wonderful playground. You know, and there's nothing better in life than being surrounded by a tubing wave, surrounded by that natural energy. One of the best things you can do. And in our world, we chase all this other stuff. You know, when I die and get into a little wicker box, probably a real recycled one or a wicker box, and I go off, it won't be the fact that I didn't have a turbo Mercedes, whatever it is, that'll be my regret. It'll be that I didn't spend enough time enjoying things like that, talking to people like you and understanding the community and the wonderful world in which I live. So things like that, and things like being with children, playing at the beach, you know, that's the aim that we had and always held here. In 1989, at the privatisation of the water industry, the then Prime Minister, Margaret Thatcher, said, and I quote on BBC Nature, all sewage is treated before discharge. The truth was, there were 400 million gallons of crude of sewage being discharged around our coastline every single day when she said that. So that was the problem, 400 million gallons. This was typical British coastline. This is Cambourne's outfall in Cornwall. That isn't a set-up shop. That's a bit of human feces with a panty liner next to it. We sold that shop to Have I Got News For You, and they had it as one of their odd ones out. Politician, the rest of your thought. So that was the problem, and with any environmental campaign, it's easy to know what the problem is. That's the easy bit. What you then have to do is to go and find the solution. And we looked high and low, and we found on the island of Jersey, they weren't going to build a long-sea outfall. They'd looked at the economics and they'd looked at the biological scientific basis underneath it, and they made the decision to put in UV disinfection. Cost £2 million, compared with a long sea outfall, cost £11 million. So it was cheaper. The effluent in their outfall pipe was 50 times cleaner than the standard that our government was saying was okay to bathe in. And it was not a standard that we didn't agree with. Now, I was called to give evidence, oral evidence, to the House of Lords Select Committee, and they picked up on this point, and they said, well, how confident would you be about this technology in Jersey? And I said, well, based on those figures, I'd feel 50 times safer sticking my head up their outfall pipe than bathing on many government-passed beaches. Now, a problem with having a big mouth is that you inevitably get called on, and about a week after I made that statement, the island of Jersey's tourist department decided that it would be great to get me to come out. And about an hour before this picture was taken, the tide was a little bit higher, and this is 100,000 people's effluent coming out of that pipe. And I jumped off, and I turned around, and there was the media there, and I paddled as hard as I could, and I duck dived into the mouth of 100,000 people's sewage. But I stand by what it said. It looked, tasted, and smelled a whole lot cleaner than the beaches that we were surfing and bathing on. So we'd found our solution. It was cheaper, and it was more environmentally sound, cheaper, and delivered the social aspect of good, clean bathing waters. The first water company to come on side was Welsh Water. They decided that we'd been talking to them, and one of the things that we always understood was that the only people who were ever going to deliver the solutions were the water companies. So we used to go and talk to them and meet with them just after campaigning hard against them. And Welsh Water were the first ones to sign up to a full sewage treatment policy, primary, secondary, and UV disinfection for all coastal and estuarine discharges. And we opened their first sewage treatment works with UV. It's our name that was on the plaque. This is UV disinfection. And at this point I'm going to say a little bit about being a YIMBY. I'm a YIMBY, yes, in my backyard. I produce sewage, I produce waste, I consume energy. We all do. And yet we have this weird thing in our society where we want to consume, we want energy, we want to be able to dispose of our waste, but none of us want any of it anywhere near us. We all need to be YIMBYs because we've only got one planet. So someone has to have it somewhere near them, and why not us? I live next to a sewage treatment works. This is Wessex Water, the chap on the right-hand side. Well, you see some dodgy haircuts through this, by the way, history of. The chap on the right-hand side is Colin Skellett. They were the second water company, Wessex Water, to sign up to a full sewage treatment policy. Off the back of that, and what's being pulled over our heads there is the final effluent coming out of Forelock sewage treatment works. Off the back of that, they were then bought by Enron, which was a bit of a disaster for them, considering what happened to Enron. But Wessex were then bought by a Malaysian family and are now running out sewage treatment systems and water treatment systems right through that area of the world. And they were doing that because they were the best. So that's really important, the business case of where we go with this kind of thing. Creating the environment for change. It's really important to drive these things up the political agenda. So anytime you need to write a letter to someone, copy it to the media. Get on the media, drive these things up the political agenda, and they go up the political agenda by being up the public agenda, and media is the key to doing that.